Welcome back to Historical Context. Today we continue our discussion in our series on the growth and fracturing of New England. Today's episode continues the talk that we've been doing the last couple of weeks on the Pequot War. Today it becomes America's first regional war. We last left off with the election of John Winthrop in the role of governor of Massachusetts Bay. The colony had been at war with the Pequots for about a year, but they had been unable to get the Plymouth or Connecticut colonies to join them. They had been successful in getting the Narragansett natives, located in present-day Rhode Island, to join them as allies in this war against the Pequots. Connecticut had suffered an attack at Wethersfield the month before, and on May 1st, 1637, in a general court at Hartford, Connecticut, the Connecticut colony agreed and ordered to wage war against the Pequot. And in that order, which if you're on our YouTube channel, you can actually see it, they set aside 90 men from the colony to fight, 42 from Hartford, 30 from Windsor, and 18 from Wethersfield, under the command of Captain John Mason. Not the same John Mason that we had discussed in our New Hampshire episode, a different John Mason. And a Robert Seeley Leaf was named second in command of that group. That Connecticut colony kind of coalesced together between those three towns of Hartford, Wethersfield, and Windsor, and raised an army of 90 men to join the war. It would take some time for the Massachusetts Bay Colony to actually be made aware of this. But I want to draw your attention again to Captain John Mason. He is a captain that came to the Massachusetts Bay Colony from England in 1632. He was appointed to the General Court before being granted permission to move to Connecticut in 1634. It's also important to note that this order came out of the Connecticut General Court, which had a similar governing structure as Massachusetts. The other John Mason that we talked about with New Hampshire died in England in 1635, so we won't be hearing from him anymore. On May 26th, Captain Mason led his militia to the Pequot fort of Mystic. They charged into the fort, but were quickly overwhelmed and had to set a fire to facilitate their escape. From there, the fire drove the Pequots out of the fort, and it was estimated that some 500 men, women, and children died from either the fire or running out of the fort into the path of the Connecticut colonists. The Battle of Mystic Fort, as it was known, was the colonists' first edge or victory in the Pequot War. Meanwhile, in the Massachusetts Bay, the colony was sending men by land through the Narragansett territory to attack the Pequots. Word of Captain Mason's actions reached the colony a few days after their men had left. Governor Winthrop also wrote to the Plymouth colony informing them of his election and requesting help against the Pequot, but understanding the Plymouth General Court had to decide first. William Bradford mentions that the Pequots attempted to make peace with the Narragansett by telling them that the English were spreading out and they would eventually be overrun by the colonists' population growth. The Narragansett saw the fragility of the colonists' food supply, according to Bradford, but the Pequots had wronged them too many times, and the Narragansett preferred revenge against the Pequots over anything else. Ultimately, Plymouth decided to join the war and committed 50 men to the cause. Massachusetts Bay now has the Narragansett, Connecticut, and Plymouth colonists as allies in the war. The Mystic Fort battle caused the Pequot to disperse, and head west, actually assimilating with the Mohicans. On July 13, 1637, Captain Mason and his men caught up with the fleeing Pequots at a swamp near modern-day Fairfield, Connecticut. Winthrop describes the events in a letter to William Bradford. Let's have a look. Our men cleared the swamp with their swords till the Indians were cooped up in so narrow a compass that they could kill them more easily through the thickets. So it essentially becomes another victory for the colonists in the Pequot War, in what would later be known as the Fairfield Swamp Fight, where most of the 300 Pequots were captured or killed. Their chief, Sassacus, did manage to escape. Sassacus and the survivors made their way to New Netherland, where he sought help from the Mohawks, but instead the Mohawks killed the Pequots and sent their scalps to the English in hopes to gain friendship with the Connecticut colony. A couple of weeks later, a small group of Pequot survivors were met with Massachusetts and Connecticut colonial forces and defeated near the former Fort Mystic. When word got back to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the men were called home, mainly because no armed resistance remained. The surviving Pequots surrendered to either the Mohawks or the Narragansett, and the two victorious tribes signed the Treaty of Hartford in September 1638 with the English, which divided up responsibility of the Pequot captives. In November 1637, the General Court of Connecticut met and decided to pay 1 shilling 3 pence per day to each man for their service in the Pequot War. Let's have a look here at this exhibit in which it talks about 1 shilling 3 pence per man being paid. It also provides 40 shillings per week for captains, 20 shillings per week for lieutenants, and 20 pence per day to sergeants. So it's an interesting system there, and I have been on the side each time we see financial measurements, whether it's prices of corn, potatoes, or payment. I've been recording these and keeping track of them. So this is the first time I've seen soldiers being paid for service in the American colonies. The end of the Pequot War would herald nearly 4 decades of peace with the natives in New England. But that does not mean that everything is harmonious in the New England colonies. In the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Pequots being defeated would allow John Winthrop and his allies to turn their sights on Anne Hutchinson and the Free Grace Advocates. And we'll talk about that next time on Historical Context.